Hello, hello. Let me grab the link. Allow. Hello, hello. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Hi, Logan. How you doing?
Plurality distinctions and pronouns and disregard.
Sorry, I did not mean to make that start playing. That was very random. I'm just trying to get things going here. So, I letting some people know that I am on. And let me see. So we're doing things a little bit differently than I originally planned. Because originally, what I was going to do was I was going to finish the writing system. And then, like, the last thing that I do was going to be make incantations for the cantrips. And that was going to be a wrap for the streaming. I'd do the rest of the incantations offline, hopefully eventually publish that as a book of some kind. And we'd be moving on in the stream to the next language, which looks to be from the poll to be Sylvan. But some things have gotten arranged in such a way that I am feeling the need to make sure that I have incantations in hand to start working with. So, oh, you're working on Orcish. That's great. Is this Orcish for D&D, or is it Orcish for a client, or like your own world, or what? Logan, because that sounds like an interesting project. Let me go and announce that I'm here doing the thing. For a client. Yeah. I am, well, sometimes I'm envious of the people that are doing things for clients. I definitely would love to, like, get paid to do conlanging. At the same time, I realize that you don't necessarily have as much control over your art that way, because it's up to the client, who may not necessarily be a linguist, to give you direction there. Desert Orcish? Okay, so you're doing it for a specific geographic region. So are you doing anything the question would be there, are you doing anything to ensure that you are able to expand that out. Like, have you done any, Logan? I know you don't really do proto-langs, but have you thought a little bit about what the ancestor is, just so that you can have an idea where to branch off from? Okay. I think that's everything. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's move on here. And the first one I want to do, I'm just going to sort of do it as an example in order to get an idea of what my process is going to be with making these. And because I already have, my brain does not stop when I'm not streaming. I am thinking all the time about what these incantations are going to be, what they're going to look like. But I have some ideas in mind for what Mage Hand is going to be. So let's actually start with Mage Hand, and I will go through the process and we will get there. So what we have here is a list of, these are all of the, these ones are all of the wizard cantrips. And the wizard cantrip list is basically shared with the sorcerers. They're the same. I've added Eldritch Blast here just in case you have a case of a warlock who wants to use the draconic language. I would think that warlocks would probably go for a different language, since most of the patrons are like outsiders. So Celestial, Infernal, Abyssal, maybe Sylvan, because there's a Fey one. But I don't know. They're probably, in some book, there's a draconic warlock, or maybe they just use draconic to like feel like they're a wizard or something. There are warlocks that like automatically speak every language, so that would track. But I didn't put, but that covers all of the arcane casters except for Bard, because Bard has Vicious Mockery. But I generally would conceive of bards as like singing a song or something as their verbal component. And secondly, Vicious Mockery specifically, I don't think I would I don't think I would ever use an incantation in a magical language for that, because to me, the verbal component of Vicious Mockery is the insult that you yell at somebody in order to cause them psychic damage. So that's probably not, I'm just generally not going to be including bard spells, but like particularly Vicious Mockery, it's like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Also, I mean, the same thing is kind of true for message here, right? I can put a little asterisk here to say, like, really your verbal component is whatever you're whispering to somebody who's far away. But since it is on the wizard spell list, I'll go ahead and make one for it. But let's get started, and let's get started with Mage Hand. So, we're going to... The first thing I want to do is we really want to get a handle on, and I'm going to go to Roll20 for this, just because it'll be formatted nicely for me, and we can read this together. So let's look up Mage Hand. And let's go over to here. So, what do we know about Mage Hand? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, there's some historically motivated asymmetries. Okay, so what you're saying there, Logan, is like you have a clue as to what words looked like before, and then, maybe you can easily pivot to them breaking a different way in the other language. That works. Okay, so Mage Hand, Conjuration Cantrip. Now, I don't really care too much about the school. The schools are, these are humanoids that that made these spells, is what I'm thinking about, and made these incantations. And I do think of the schools of magic as like a humanoid wizard invention. So it's kind of relevant, but at the same time, it's like not that big a deal. This one, casting time, one action. That's important. I don't think any of the cantrips have a casting time longer than one action. But if you are thinking in terms of how D&D time works, right? One action is something you can do in combat. And specifically, a round of combat is approximately 6 seconds. People sometimes, I feel, are a bit too rigid about saying, okay, a round is 6 seconds. It's, you get 10 rounds to a minute, but I think really if you were like translating a D&D combat into live action, you wouldn't necessarily adhere to it exactly 6 seconds, but it's a good rule of thumb. And it's not like we can say this incantation in 6 seconds, we're good. Because an action, you get an action and then you get to move. And you can also have bonus actions, which, since this is a cantrip, you can cast this and also have a bonus action spell. So that's something to consider. And reactions and all this. So you're doing all this stuff in one round. Really, you don't want this to take more than like 3 seconds to say the incantation. So we're going to keep it to... So we're going to keep most of these things. Mage Hand isn't really a combat one. It's one action because so that if you do want to cast it in combat, then you are then you know exactly how to do it. But but since it is one action, you're probably going to keep it short because people might want to pull out their Mage Hand in combat. There might be some situation where there's a lever that can throw the enemies off a cliff and you're not close to it, so you Mage Hand it. So anyway, range is 30 feet. Doesn't matter so much, except that the distance is something. Components, verbal and somatic. So you have to say a thing, which is what we're going to do, and you make a gesture of some kind. Duration is 1 minute. And the description, a spectral floating hand appears at a point you choose within range. The hand lasts for the duration or until you dismiss it as an action. The hand vanishes if it is ever more than 30 feet away from you or if you cast the spell again. You can use your action to control the hand. You can use the hand to manipulate an object, open an unlocked door or container, stow or retrieve an item from an open container, or pour the contents out of a vial. You can move the hand up to 30 feet each time you use it. The hand can't attack activate magic items, or carry more than 10 pounds. So that's very like it's very legalistic how defined it is. Basically, what you've got is you have this hand that is disconnected from your body and can move up to 30 feet away from you. And you can use it. We've got a few examples of things that you can use it for. It can't carry more than 10 pounds. So you can't necessarily pick things up with it except very small stuff. And okay, I need to pause here for a second. I'm going to be right back. Okay, I'm back. Hey, let me see. Let me see the stream. Okay. All right. Apologies for that. I just wanted to deal with that right then. But let's see. How long have we been running? Okay, let's keep going with this. Okay. So, we've got this spectral hand that's like made of magic. It is conjuration. So this is not a ghost hand. This is not um you know a hand that's it could be something that's summoned, but most likely we're talking about something that was created by magic. And so one thing I was actually considering whether there would be a misunderstanding here or something. Well, but I think I do want to, in this case, just inherit a thing that I let them be accurate in some way here. So the the Ndakaga word for magic is the same as the word for dream. And this is a situation that has to do why okay. My I'm sure I have more than a bit rate of 0. Okay. Um so insraf means magic or dream. And the idea is that like my idea, and this is sort of having to end up doing some world building in order to make the language, is that I considered that dragons will call the astral plane the dream of the world. And because of that, and because in D&D magic is connected to the outer planes, then we get this idea of magic as dreaming. Okay? So, yeah, I had to step out because I don't know if you guys heard, but one of my daughters was crying really hard. And it was because she couldn't find the game that she wanted. So I was trying to resolve that so I could come back here. But she's with her mother now, where they're trying to figure things out. Anyway, so for Mage Hand, the important thing is that you are somehow summoning or creating or conjuring. Yeah, yeah, that happens. I probably should have put a sign up, be right back. So you're conjuring this hand that can move around remotely. My idea is then we can use this idea. Insraf means hand, and so here are some. Let me sketch out. Let me just draft in English the ideas that I had for an incantation. It would be like, I dream of a hand. I summon the hand of dreams. And understand, like in... yeah, she's okay. Understand that like when we're translating this, then it would be like dream of hand I summon. Hand of dreams or hand of the dream, I think, maybe. Or a hand of the dream. Or something like that. So let's actually pull that out in Draconic. And let's say we do this. So it would be insraf if, and I think agu, I think we'd do agu for this. Like, we could do da or agu, but I feel like agu, like out of, and then egre. So egre, so it would be egre insraf if egre, and we need accusative. So egrebe, egrebe, and then we would have to have a word for summon or call. That's getting a little long, but if we go back to dream, Israf, if I egrebe, and let's say that we just have the verb dream is just the same, right? I have not done a whole lot of this, but there are some words that I think it'll make sense to do this. To dream and make it transitive. About to create by magic. And then unless I could do that with a postposition. I don't think I'm gonna do it with the postposition though. I think I just make it, if I, so let's throw this into our, what is that? Just go throw this into our, I probably will need something that has to do with like summoning or something later on. But we're going to get into our inflections, and let's go to verb root. Ah, what? I didn't copy it? Okay. Insraf. And let's put that into Lexergy. Oh, I don't have my, Ginsrafbe, Ginsrafube, Ginsrafube, me. Right, so first singular, third thing here. Ginsrafube. Ginsrafube. So we could have that, or we could go with one of our post positions. So we'd have Agus. Yeah, that doesn't work necessarily. Ape. Ba could work in that case. Fa. Yeah, yeah. I think I dream a hand is nice and strong, and I'm going to go with that. And so dream can be a transitive verb here. So we go back to insraf. And why is it being weird like this? Wow, what's going on with that? There we go. Ah. This is weird. I messed up. Now it's back. Sometimes computers are just weird. Okay, anyway. So, first person, Ginsrafibe. So, Egrebe Ginsrafibe. So that is another. Now, another one I could have done is like, there is a hand. But I think I want to have something about dream specific because it's described as a spectral hand. So I want to like specifically call out that this is like something that is made by language. And I can do the whole. Let's go ahead and gloss it. And that's our incantation for Mage Hand. And the ones that I've bolded are ones that for reasons, I want to make sure that I get to those ones and get them done. But we're going to do all of them on this list. For the people who joined later, this list is, we've got, I put the writing system on pause. We're going to go back to it, but I decided to go in early and start doing the incantations for the cantrips. And so this is all of the SRD wizard cantrips plus Eldritch Blast, in case somebody wants to have a warlock that uses Draconic as his spellcasting language. Or her, or there, whatever. So, we've got Mage Hand. Let's move on to, I think Light is going to be interesting. And I'll get to use the word that I made from one of my daughter's names. So that will be useful. That will be fun. So let's go ahead and let's go and check that out. So let's look up Light. Light spells. Okay. So evocation cantrip. Evocation, that probably doesn't matter at all, because all evocation is telling me is a spell that creates energy that is like sent out, right? It's like energetic. Okay, so casting time, 1 action. So again, it needs to be short so that you can say it in, my rule of thumb is going to be less than 3 seconds. Most things are going to be even shorter than that, because just a couple of words or something like that. Range is touch. So that can be relevant to the spell, in that, like, I can use that in the incantations that talk about something that I touch. Components are verbal and material. A firefly, or as I call them, lightning bug, or phosphorescent moss. So it's something that's phosphorescent. Or you can just have an arcane focus and ignore that. But anyway, so there's a verbal and a material. No somatic component. That's interesting. Duration is 1 hour. So this is a spell that you cast once and you don't really worry about it for a while, right? So that can be relevant. Okay. Now, let's read the effect of the spell, because I think it's important here, talking about like what the actual spell is, so that we can like hone in on. I don't want to hone in on exactly what we want to say. So it says, you touch one object that is no longer than 10 feet in any dimension. Until the spell ends, the object sheds bright light in a 20-foot radius and dim light for an additional 20 feet. So this basically gives, if you are a human, or anybody who doesn't have dark vision, then this gives you basically a good range of vision out to 20 feet, and then out to 40 feet sort of okay vision, right? The light can be colored as you like. Completely covering the object with something opaque blocks the light. The spell ends if you cast it again or dismiss it as an action. If you target an object held or worn by a hostile creature, that creature must succeed on a dexterity saving throw to avoid the spell. So that's just like, that's just it if you want to use it like in a combative way, like for maybe light up somebody's armor so you can see them better in the dark or something, right? And they just have to like run prevent you from touching them. That's an interesting note that they added in there. But the key thing in here is you touch an object. So the light spell does not summon like a mote of light that follows you around or anything like that. Which that's another. In some fantasy worlds, that would be what you do. And there is a spell, Dancing Lights, that does something similar to that. But specifically the light spell here is you are imbuing an object with light. Right? So what I'm thinking is I'm thinking we need to be addressing the object or mentioning the object in some way and talking about how you have some object that is giving off light. So a couple of ideas I have here. So we can go with like a command, light my way, right? Or like a statement, you will light my way. I'm thinking either one of those would work. Now, I will say I'm not opposed to this one being relatively long compared to others, because even though the casting time is one action, you don't cast light in combat very often. There might be situational play times when you might want to do it, but usually this is like you are going into a dungeon and it's like Gandalf making his staff glow, right? You walk into a dungeon and you touch a weapon or a piece of clothing or something that's going to be out in the open and cast the light on it so that you don't have to carry torches. Right? So I would say that it doesn't matter too much how long this is. But I think, so we can do something like, you will give light. I haven't made a verb for light, I don't think, and I haven't used that root as a verb. Let's look up light. Right? So right now I just have a noun, light. So the question is, what am I going to do with this? So no, I know it. Make or give off or something. Let's see if I don't have a word for make. Create. Yeah. So I kind of like it being like the two kinds of magic that I really want to, the two kinds of like magical incantation that I really want to use for Ndakaga specifically are, number one, statements that become true. Stuff like when Gandalf says to Saruman, "Your staff is broken," and Saruman's staff just breaks. Right? He said something, and it became true in that moment. And the mage hand one is kind of like that. It's more of a performative. In the case of mage hand, it's like I'm dreaming of a hand, and oh, there's a hand there. Okay. The other one would be direct commands, imperatives. So I'm thinking about, like, would it be more appropriate for me to say, like, to be saying towards this object, this thing will light our way, or this thing will give light, or should I, like, have a god have characters look at whatever they're making and say, "You're gonna light up," right? And I think I really like the idea. You're gonna light up. So let's go with make light. And so we need a word for make, which, of course, we don't have. Let's. We have a bunch of extra roots that we generated that we're not going to be worrying about. So if we take a look at these, does anyone see a word that works well to mean make or do? Sasu, fayu. It could be basically anything, right? I'm gonna highlight Nuye and Sasu and Fai. How about we do that? Well, we don't have a lot of yes sounds. So, okay. So let's start a poll. To make a very basic word. And I will consider whether do and make are the same or different. So, Nuye Fa Yu or Sasu. It's just so, and while I'm waiting for that, let's just like sketch out the structure here. So it's going to be so what's the accusative form? Debe. And then we need the imperative form. So if we go to Gita, it's a Gita. So it's one object, so it has to be. So be. And make a third person there. Okay, so. Oh, come on, guys. Let's choose your words here. So. Great. Okay. We've got a 3-way tie right now. How many people are on the stream? There are more people watching the stream. Somebody can come in here and be a kingmaker and get theirs chosen. Yeah. Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Well, I'm going to end the poll there. And you know what? I am we have two winners. I like both of these, so I'm going to do a runoff for you guys. What is our word for make? And we're going to go again. New Year and fire. Okay. Give you guys another minute or two to get that sorted. Can I set what the latency is on my stream in the comments? Because I have heard that that is a setting, and so one thing, this is definitely going to be a Gita situation. Because both of these take strong vowels. Okay, so okay, I think we're going to we'll go ahead and end it. And then so let's grab this. And I'll probably like pull from these a little bit. So we go grab that one and let's go generate our stuff. Make is definitely something that is a transitive verb in my mind. You could do an intransitive make, but I'm you know, preferring transitive in this case. Okay. And let's make sure, let's get into here. Okay, so but this is not the so let's go. Let's new note. Fire. And fire. Fire. Verb transitive. Make. And we gotta do kind of fix this weird table error. But remember what we want. Let's move all of these. Oh, this is weird. I'll deal with that later. What we want here is not this, or not any of these GIF. Yeah, so it's not going to be like you could say tafayde, right? But it's actually gita fayde, gita fayube. So let's go. Fayube. It's dube gita fayube. Dube gita fayube. It's very long. So I want to go back to this. I want to take a look at here, because I haven't actually used the imperative before, and it's making me think. So these come from cantrips, right? Which is force to command. So the idea is like, I force you to do this, right? And these are both sort of like So, okay, I'm thinking this. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking that um, I don't like this being 2 syllables because it's making our commands super long. And what I think I can do is here what I had is it just the initial k sound from Gintrisp ended up being in here and merging with the dri to become gri. I think I can just do the same thing. I think maybe what we can do is, okay, we delete this vowel, right? And how about we combine this articulation with the ta has aspiration. We combine that together, they coalesce into ka. And then, because I don't think ka means anything else. What's, yeah, there's no ka in the position. Oh, there's ka. Ka. But there's no ka. So yes. So I'm going to do that revision, and then we're going to go in here and then debe kafayabe. Debe kafayabe. 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 Debe kafayabe. I think that actually it's still a lot of syllables, but it you get to the root earlier, which makes it clearer, and it's just not quite as long. We don't have like a 6 syllable word. So light. So let's gloss this. I like to gloss things. David doesn't like to gloss things. Light, accusative, imperative, singular, make, and there's a third person inflection at the end. So, make light. So there we go. All right. There, we got 2 down. And I even had like an interruption. Okay, so we've got mage hand done. Egribe ginsrafe. Egribe ginsrafe. And then make light. Dube kafayibe. Now, for the ones that I'm focusing on first, we've got Firebolt and Shocking Grasp. Let's do Firebolt. So we're moving into combat spells, which is going to be different. I think we're going to emphasize being short even more for combat spells, because like light, you might cast it in combat. You're probably not going to. Mage hand, you might have a reason to cast in combat. I do like losses because I like to have some. Hello? Okay. Can you guys see me, hear me? Okay. Did I cut out for a second there? Okay, so I'm back. Okay, okay. Um, so uh, I understand like David's position. First, for one thing, like he's like down with morphemes, right? So uh, glossing tends to follow sort of a morpheme theory, and also accessibility. People who are looking at his languages are not always necessarily up on the glossing rules and stuff. Um, but uh, but I like glossing because it's valuable to me to see what all is going on besides just like matching one word to another. So it's useful. Okay. So Firebolt. Evocation cantrip. Casting time 1 action. Again, it's going to be short. Range 120 feet. So you shoot this thing very far. This is for standing in the back and firing at whatever is engaging with the melee classes, right? Components, verbal, somatic. So, so our incantation and a gesture. The gesture, I think, for Firebolt is just like some kind of like throwing or holding out your hand so the fire shoots out, right? So, let's read the thing. You hurl a mote of fire at a creature or object within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 1d10 fire damage. A flammable object hit by this spell ignites if it isn't being worn or carried. This spell's damage increases by 1d10 when you reach and we don't need to worry about the damage. Well, I mean, so the damage is relevant because 1d10 is pretty big for a cantrip. That's an average of 5 damage at level 1, and then it goes up higher. So it's a significant ball of flame that you're throwing. It says a mote of fire, but it's pretty significant. It sets things on fire. It's got a bonkers long range. 120 feet is like the maximum range of anything in D&D, outside of like some like probably outside of some like sci-fi supplements where you get a sniper rifle or something. Or if you do like meta magic and make it 240 feet, but like if you're doing that, like what are you doing? You're sniping from across almost an entire football field away from your enemies. That's not typically what D&D tactics are like. But it's an attack. You're shooting fire at something, or throw. We could consider throwing, but here's things I was thinking, and maybe I will have you guys have some input on this one because I'm not entirely sure what to do with this. So like, one is take that hurl seriously and say, okay, you're throwing it, right? I throw fire. Another one would be like, my hand spits fire. Taking our verb meaning to vomit or spit, which we use with breath weapons, and then relating it to like your hand spitting the fire. And I think that's the two options I go with.
One thing is this might get a little long, and it's probably not going to be my hand, but it's going to be like the hand or something like that because possession is clunky in Ndakaga, and probably they would avoid a possessive construction just because you need like the post position and everything and make it long. I throw fire is cool. We don't have a verb for throw. And I'm curious about how that would work when dragons themselves are not really built for throwing. So maybe they would not have a basic root for it. So we need to figure out what the meaning what word means throw. You can have hand spits fire. Yeah, I'm going to put this up to you guys. Which one do you think is the better option? And let's say this is an advisory poll. I will reserve the right to change it if it ends up not working out exactly. Let's go with I throw fire or my hand spits fire. Keep in mind that these things are from a human perspective, but they're using Ndakaga words, which are made by the words are made by the dragons. The incantations are made by humanoids. So if there's sort of a disconnect, then that can be good for showing that is how things are working. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Let's see how that will work. We have yeah. Dube kafayube. Dube kafayube. Egrebe ginsraf. Egrebe ginsrafube. Okay. It's a tie. We got a tie here. And we'll have to think about shocking grasp, acid splash, chill touch, dancing lights. Yeah. Oh gosh. People are fighting. Why are... Oh gosh. People are being very even on this, huh? Yeah. Prestidigitation is going to be really challenging. And probably going to take me like an entire stream to figure out because that's just like wild. Okay. All right. I'm going to end it there. And it looks like I throw fire won. Just barely. Which is interesting. And maybe my hand spits fire is not dead. Maybe it can be used for another higher level spell, like burning hands or something like that. You can modify it for that. But we're going with I throw fire. So this one is going to be like the statement that comes true, right? Like your somatic component is going to be like gearing up and like throwing like you're throwing a baseball. And at the same time, you're going to say, I throw fire. Now, throw, we got to think in terms of translating between a dragon and a human. So do we have a word for drop? We don't have a word for drop. Can dragons throw things? Because to look at pictures of them, I don't think they have quite the shoulder to throw things like a human does. But they can drop things on top of you, and that's probably a tactic that they would use. So I'm wondering if like throw and drop can be similar. Yes. Okay. Okay, I've got this. Okay. Let me choose an appropriate. What was up here? What did up here even mean? I don't like any of these. Kige. Okay, Kige is drop. Now, okay. We're going to. Apologies for doing it this way. It's just like I am inspired and I want to like get through this really quick. So we go with Kige. And let's get that sorted out. Ah, yes. Okay, so Kige. Okay. I'm gonna have to think a little bit. Okay, so far so good. And let's get our... Okay. Gekigebe. But kige means to drop, not to throw. So we need something else. And let's look at, I'm looking at a couple of ways to do that. So directionals. Okay. Right. For certain non-motion verbs that are implied to have a direction, both directional and associated meanings are available, but must be differentiated by context. So the dragon breathed fire while coming at us. Yes, right. So here is my idea. Okay. So with directional, ku, or chi, to throw. So if you want this verb by itself, kige, means to drop. But if you add the itive directional, or the rising directional, you can make it mean throw. So you drop it that way, or you drop it up. That means you're throwing it. Okay? So for this case, you're sending it in a direction, right? So it's not really, you can fire a firebolt straight up, but most likely you are going to be on the same level with your enemy and you're just going to be throwing it out in this direction. So for the basic form of our thing, I'm going to use the itive, which is going to be ku. So let's look up fire. Fire is EP. EP, accusative epibe. Epibe. And then, so drop, but it has to have the k. So it would be g, k, kige, kigube. Gukukigube. Ipibe gukukigube. It's going to be caused to move ballistically in a direction. That is a great translation for kige, right? And by but I still would by default translate it as drop, because that's the default meaning, is that you're dropping it. But if you send it off in a different direction, then you add a directional, and it is. So ipibe gukukigube. Gukukigube. It is a bit of a tongue twister, but I'm okay with that. Gukukigube. I think I'm wondering if maybe I need to add some secondary stresses to this language in order to help out with pronouncing things like that. Instead of gukukigube, be like gukukigube. Gukukigube. Like, have a secondary stress on that key would make it a little easier to pronounce. So let's gloss this, and I think that's going to be it. Right. Yeah. Magical incantations shouldn't be easy, otherwise anyone could do them. I get where you're going with that, Logan. I will say, like, part of my philosophy here is that I will say that it's going to be up to the DM and the players negotiating how hard you need to hold to saying the exact incantation. Because I don't want... I would not like situations where a player has trouble with this kind of thing, and because of that, they just don't get to play because they can't cast spells, right? So my idea would be like, by default, we treat these things as like a spell focus. And the DM can say, okay, you're saying it close enough. And I will probably, when I go to write down Ndakaga, I will like add outs in that by saying like, okay, wizards don't always pronounce things exactly right in Ndakaga, and here are a few things that you might do differently. Like, one of the things that I thought that I specifically wanted to call out is like, you can go ahead and round the back vowels if you have trouble, and I can assume that lots of humanoid wizards that maybe don't have those sounds in their language, because some of them will have it, but some of them won't, will just round them anyway and not worry about it, right? But at the same time, it is kind of fun to try to wrap your mouth around these things and say them. I really think that the initial stress, although that was a random choice, is really going to give character to this, because I feel like most of the times magical incantations that I hear that are like made up gibberish or something tend to go for a penultimate stress. And so this initial stress is going to make this sound very different from all of that. But anyway, we'll see. I think I'm going to call the stream there, but we're going to come back next week. I'm going to do Shocking Grasp, and then we'll just sort of continue on down the line and get, as many of these done as we can. Like I said, they're particularly these four are important, are ones that I have a reason to want to make sure I get done. But, we can do at least another week of doing this before we get back to doing our writing system, or we can just finish out all of the cantrip incantations and then go back to the writing system and finish that up. It just depends on what you guys are interested in doing and what and how much progress we end up making. But for now, that's all that I am going to do. I will let all of you guys stew on what we're going to do for Shocking Grasp. You go on your own and read the spell text and think about okay, how are we going to describe this? I know it's a lightning damage spell. It's like a touch spell, combat oriented, but we'll leave that for now. And I'm going to go and take care of things. And until I see you next time, happy conlanging.